while you're here in town. So I just wanted her to talk about how she has seen the trauma training and different things that we do help families in foster care.
Yes, I've been representing children in the CPS system for 11 years now, almost 12, and so, you know, that's a long time in this kind of field. I mean, you think you've seen everything, and then the next case comes in. And one of the things that, you know, several years ago, I knew that Angela through Beach Street had started the clothes closet, and they were looking to expand. And so I remember going to a meeting and basically just giving my vision. Hey, let's do this and this and this and this. And it became very clear that we needed an organization, not just one church. We needed a community that is getting around foster care. And I think that, you know, several years in now, I'm seeing where that has now, it's starting to take root, and we're starting to see some fruit. We're starting to see new foster homes. We're starting to see that local foster families have babysitters when they need it. But we're also starting to see where we're able to connect with biological families as well, because reunification is the ultimate goal in the system, because what we really want to see is God redeem families.
Amen.
And unfortunately, the foster care system has kind of trained families to not want that, but we're seeing a shift nationwide and locally into foster families viewing themselves as resource families, meaning that they become a resource, especially if we can, by some grace of God, keep a child within the community. They can become a resource for that family, that biological family. But to do that, they need resources, the families need resources, and then that's where For the Sake of One comes in. Well, as you can imagine, COVID kind of shook up the CPS world in big ways. I mean, we've got kids that have not seen their families except through a screen since March. And they're not doing the greatest, you know, that's not ideal. But one thing that has been clear is that For the Sake of One has been blessed by donations, by faithful givers, by just people that are willing to provide anytime there is a need. For example, a support person came to a hearing on February 26th and left with 2 children. You know, they weren't looking to take home kids that day. And the youngest child was just a few days old, I think maybe a week. Well, WIC takes time, and if you remember back then, that was when there was a rush on diapers, wipes, and formula. So not only do they have a few-day-old infant, they can't find formula or wipes anywhere. Plus, her health, she should not have been out in stores at that point, but was having to look in stores. I looked in every store I could find. And finally, you know, I called First Choice and I called For the Sake of One. And, you know, we did, I think, empty the formula shelf that day. But For the Sake of One had that formula. And then they had it a few weeks later when she still couldn't find it. And that's just kind of been the story of God's faithfulness this year, is this has not been an easy year to find resources for anyone, but yet anytime there's been a need, God has provided it through For the Sake of One. You know, even with children that need school supplies, and you know, back then when we were buying school supplies, we didn't know if it was going to be virtual, in person, a combination of both. But you know, this town faithfully supported, or this region faithfully supported, you know, many foster families with the school supplies. And you know, in this next year, you know, one of our dreams is to expand the services that we can provide. In the midst of COVID, we're looking to expand. I mean, like those are some dreams that we have, but the trauma-based services are something that through the training that I've had and that Angela's had, that we've just really had laid on our heart that we need to provide. Because there's not anybody that's really providing trauma-informed services in town. This year, because I called Angela up last year, probably about this time last year, and said, hey, I've got a mom that is doing everything she can to get back her kids, and you're doing a trauma training for foster homes. Can she come? And let's see if this is something that would be beneficial for biological family members. Because it was somebody I felt like I could get honest feedback from. And so that mother did go. It was rough on her that day. because she realized that she was passing her trauma down to her children.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what we need them to realize. We need the parents to realize that the trauma they experienced as a child is just being passed on to their children so that they can break that cycle of trauma. And that the children, the needs that they have are different because they are traumatized. And so this next year, we're hoping to expand that to offer some more trauma services, particularly to caregivers, to kind of coach them on how to discipline or connect with, through discipline, a child. And then, of course, we would like to do more prevention. And I'm sure that Angela's going to tell you a lot more about that, because it's become abundantly clear as we dream of all of the things that we want to do that we really need a social worker. We need someone who can really start to connect. And that's, to be dreaming about expansion in the midst of everything that's going on is just something that it just shows that God's at work in this organization. God's at work in the system in this area, and we just need fellow co-workers. Let's join in where God's already at work. Let's not try to manufacture something. He's working, and so let's join in with him.
Yeah.